Hello, and thank you again for watching. I'm taking my son for an evening walk, so pardon the lighting, but I wanted to shoot a quick video talking about the subtle forms of manipulation, the subtle forms of control that is a part of the third dimension, definitely, because and the fourth dimension, depending on which part of 4D this energy is in. But there are a lot of things that we are still learning about, especially as we are moving closer to 5D, how deep the manipulation goes, how deep the corruption goes on a global scale, but the manipulation too in our personal lives, the things that we've allowed to go on, the treatment that we've allowed from other people, because ultimately that happens when we're not honoring who we are. And know that if you do have a mission, a call on your life, a purpose, that you will be tested, you will be challenged, and the tests will often come from the people closest to you, because when you change, that's going to trigger something in them. Either they're not going to be able to get whatever it is they were getting from you anymore, or they're going to have to come up to your level if they're going to be a part of your life. And usually it's both. Both of those things happen. So one of the ways that people try to manipulate you in a subtle way is they'll offer you some help. Now, let's say a lot of us, for example, light workers, we're going through tower moments. A lot of people, just in general, are having their worlds shaken. They're having their belief systems shaken up, things that they thought were true, that we're finding out, we're all finding out are not true, things that have been kept from us. So, one of the ways that people in particular manipulate other people is that they will help them initially, and then when the opportune time presents itself, they'll turn around and stab you in the back or leave you high and dry, because ultimately it only happens when you give your power away. Okay, that's basically what I'm trying to say. But it's a really shitty thing to do, but it's one of those things that I've seen happen consistently in my life and in the lives of some of the other people around me. And I think it has a lot to do with conditioning, of course, but it's also a deeper kind of like darkness coming up within other people. So, let's say, for example, you loan somebody some money, okay? This person pays you back, right? But as soon as they get an opportunity, they do something very deceitful or something that doesn't make any sense. And you can't understand, like, why would they do this? You don't even understand how they would think that was okay to do. That's one way. Another way that people manipulate you is if you are in a situation where you are at a crossroads. You need, really what you need is support. You need somebody to say, hey, I'm there for you. Let me help you if I can, but just know that I'm there for you if you ever need to talk. But what often ends up happening is, especially when you're going through some kind of major crisis, is certain individuals start to fall out of your life because they can't handle what you're going through. They can't handle the energy of it. They can't handle the thought that, it could have been them. That's just my thinking. Also, I think it has a lot to do with people saying that they are one thing, but when a situation occurs, it's like that saying, circumstances don't make a man or a woman, they reveal him. And I think that was a quote from As a Man Thinketh. Circumstances do not make a man or a woman, they reveal him or her. Okay, and that goes for everybody, all parties involved in any situation. But all of this is ultimately to trigger all of us, to bring things up to our awareness that are of lesser frequency, that are keeping us from moving to the next level. And I'll also say that most people up to this point have chosen not to move to a certain level because they don't want to go through anything. They don't want to experience pain. They would rather live in la la land, right? Or stay inside the matrix, if you will, because it's easier. And it is a lot easier. It is a lot easier to buy into the illusions. It's a lot easier to just be a sheeple. It's a lot easier to just kind of, fall into the whole system and routine. You get up, go to work every day, to a job that you hate. You're not helping anybody. You're not helping yourself. You're probably ruining your health. Then you're sitting in traffic. That's wasted time you could be spending with your family, time you could be working on your spiritual life. So these are the things that I think about. And, we shouldn't be afraid of struggle either, because that is a part of life. We will have challenges, obstacles to overcome, because ultimately that's how we grow. Now, it sucks. It definitely does. I mean, nobody wants to go through hard times. Nobody wants to be vulnerable, right? But I think that can ultimately be your greatest gift, because if you have nothing to fear, which ultimately vulnerabilities, that's the whole purpose of them, revealing themselves to you, is to reveal where you have fear, right? But if you have nothing to fear, you don't have anything to hide, basically, right? You have nothing to fear because you have nothing to hide. What the world is getting is you, 100% authentically you. And that's what the world needs right now. We have enough pretenders. We have enough people supporting other people to be pretenders and to be, mindless consumers of everything and anything, and it's just, we have to really take a pause, what I like to call a holy pause, and think about our actions and how we treat other people and how we are challenged, especially by other people that are in need, especially by other people that are vulnerable. How do they challenge us? If we have the ability to help, will we? Right? It's one thing to say that, it always sounds good. I'm a very giving person. I'm a loving person. I'd give and I'd do this and this and that. What about when something really happens and you are the only person that's available to help? Will you do it? Will you do it? You have the resources. You might be a little uncomfortable for a bit, because of course it's going to challenge you in more ways than one, but my whole thing is just to examine yourself in that area, and don't use that ability that you have to help another person and invert it and then turn around and treat them like shit because you feel like you are entitled to do that, because it makes you feel better that maybe somebody is going through a challenging time and you're not going through such a challenge, right? But trust me, you will have a challenge and you will need support, okay? I mean, everybody's going to experience some kind of major crisis in their life, maybe a few times, okay? But definitely once or twice. You're going to lose a loved one. You're going to lose a job. You're going to, experience setbacks. And this is not the time to look for an opportunity to further manipulate a situation or a person, especially when they're feeling vulnerable, when they come to you for help and ask you like, hey, you don't know what it took for that person to do that. And you have a right to say no. That's not what I'm saying. If you feel in your heart that it's not the right thing to do, that's one thing. But a lot of times that isn't the case. You just don't want to do it. And you have to really examine that. I'm definitely examining that in my life, the things that I don't want to do, but yet I feel like I'm entitled to other things. So, I think that's where the balance is coming in. The challenge of moving into this fifth dimensional energy is that we are going to have to integrate these emotions, these thought forms, right? Dissolve or integrate. I mean, you can't have lower density, service to self type of energy moving into the next level. That's why all this stuff is coming to the surface. That's why a lot of people, especially like I said in my other videos, forerunners, people that do have a true mission and calling and have known for a long time, we're going to be the ones that really get challenged, because we are triggering the masses, and we're not afraid to do it either. we might as well not be afraid, because if that's your purpose, if that's what your calling is, then you're going to do it whether you want to or not, because that's why you came here. So in some capacity, you will be doing it. So why not be a conscious creator, right? And do it on purpose, and as opposed to responding to outcomes. So as always, I'm going to offer some practical tips to, to decipher whether or not you're being manipulated, or somebody's trying to manipulate you, or if it's a lesson you need to learn. If it's, ultimately it's all of us. We all have lessons, but, you have to decide whether or not something is about you or somebody else. And that goes right into the first tip. If it doesn't feel good, then it probably isn't you. 99% of the time, it isn't you. We have to remember that thought forms travel, okay? That people have especially now that the energy is increasing, telepathy is increasing, so people are sending out thought forms. A lot of times they don't even know it. So if somebody says something and you feel something else, then that's definitely a mismatch, right? And you pay attention to that thought. It's not yours. Most likely it's not yours. And so that makes it easy for you to say, you know what, I'm gonna release you because this doesn't feel good, so keep it moving, right? The second way to tell if your energy or if somebody's trying to manipulate you is if you are in a crisis situation and people start making plans for you without checking with you first, okay? Now, it's one thing if people offer you help and you say, hey, this is an option for you, I'd like to do this and this and that, but they don't have to orchestrate every single aspect of it, and if somebody feels like they have to do that, chances are they're looking for an opportunity to be in control of something, to manipulate something, and it doesn't feel good, right? So going back to that first one, if it doesn't feel good what that person is doing, then it's not right. It's not right for you. And the third tip, always, I think I'll have this as a staple tip, is to always, 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 always trust your intuition. Always. And that intuition is that repetitive, positive thought, because it makes you feel good. It's something that when you think about it or you say it, it gives you peace. It's the answer. It doesn't matter how far-fetched or crazy it is, but it is the answer. And if you are able to just be open and receptive to that, in any way that shows up, it'll be a lot easier for you to see the signs and the way forward, right? Because one step always leads to the next. We don't get the whole picture. That's just not how we have been. Well, we're moving into that, where time doesn't exist. But unfortunately, that's been hijacked. So we only get step by step, bit by bit, as much as we can handle in any given moment. But just know that. And trusting your intuition goes right into the fourth tip, is trusting in divine timing. Because remember, even in the Bible, it says that 40 years is but 1 hour, right? So we have to remember that time is only our way of carving up the oneness. And that on some level, whatever we desire already exists. We just have to hold fast to that. We have to do whatever we need to do to keep that at the forefront of our mind and stay focused only on the end result. Okay, we acknowledge that there is fear. We acknowledge that there is fear of the unknown. We don't exactly know what we're going to do next, sometimes in the next minute. But that trust is what's going to give you the peace. That trust is what's going to keep you open and receptive to the signs and the symbols and the synchronicities, because they're all here. The universe is built on numbers and synchronicities. So everything is here. The pathway is already here, but we have to let our spiritual guard down a little bit, okay? And be open, not to malevolent energies, but to the things that make us feel at peace. If we get an answer and it makes us feel peaceful, it doesn't invoke fear in us, but it makes us feel like, okay, I feel inspired, like I can probably do this. I'm going to need some help, but I can do this. Then that's definitely your higher self. Your higher self will never, your higher self, your angels, guides, they'll never ever push you in the direction of fear. They'll tell you to be brave and courageous, which we have to be on this journey, but they'll never push you in the direction of negative fear, right? Maybe apprehension a little bit because you just don't know, but not fear to the point where you have physical reactions. You know, you just feel nauseous, or that's actually the opposite. Something is feeding off of your energy. You know, all thought forms carry entities, okay? And we can think of them, you know, with eyes, ears, nose, shoulders, knees, and toes if we want to, but whatever, they have thought forms have entities connected to them. So think about that in terms of, you know, checking in with yourself, which is my fifth and final tip, to check in with yourself every now and then. You know, what am I thinking about? How am I feeling? And consciously guiding your thoughts, directing your thoughts, because that's where everything starts. Your thoughts will create the feelings will create the wherewithal for you to believe that what you want and what you need is actually already here, because it definitely is. Okay? So thank you so much for watching. I hope you can hear me okay on this street, but all of my information is in the description box below if you'd like to book a coaching session or an astrology crystal healing session. All of that information is down below. Thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful evening, day, wherever you are. Namaste.